Welcome everybody to the newest episode of Amateur Theory. Today we've kind of taken a detour with a lot of movies that aren't bad, aren't old, right? But here we are back again at a old, widely considered bad movie. I say that because I know that JL is a fan, actually, so we might have a little disagreement here.
And a lot of... Oh wait, have we said even the title of the movie?
No, but it's in the title of the podcast. They know.
Okay.
They know.
Okay, so I don't think generally people consider this movie to be like hot garbage or anything, just like pure trash. But
so what I saw, again, based on my Wikipedia research, it's all I ever do. It seemed like this, and this is Alien Resurrection. I mean, we'll say it. It was divisive. So, like, there were people who did really not like it, including the director, Whedon, really did not like this movie.
Yeah. Well, he didn't direct it. He just wrote the screenplay.
Okay. Well, he did not care for it. Roger Ebert gave it like a 1 out of 4. It's called it the worst movie of 1997.
So he called it the worst movie of 97?
I think he did. So I'm not alone in like thinking this movie was like not good. But for every bad review, there were also glowing reviews. So when I first saw the Rotten Tomatoes was like 55%, to me that reads like, it's a 5 out of 10 movie. But it seemed like it's closer to like a love it or hate it kind of thing, where some people really liked it and some people really didn't. Yeah. And I happen to be on the side of it. I did not think this was good. It wasn't boring. So you could make an argument for this so bad it's good, but this is not even in that metric. I don't think it was that great. I had a lot of issues with this movie.
Well, I think to understand some of the initial reception to this movie, you have to understand where the franchise was when the film came out. Because Alien 3 came out in like 92, I think. And a lot of people did not like Alien 3.
It seemed like that one was received even worse than this one was, actually. And just for context, I've seen the first 2 Alien movies, but it's been years. So, it's been, I could probably do for a refresher, honestly. But I've never seen Alien 3. So there was a gap that might have affected my enjoyment, especially some of the plot points that didn't make a lot of sense to me. Like maybe if I'd watched 3, they would have made sense. But even with all that, like my issues for the movie are deeper than just like the plot. So that's I doubt seeing a widely considered even worse Alien movie would have made me come back to this one and been like, oh, you know what? It's actually good. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, okay. So Alien 3 came out and people didn't like it. And it had a very like dark, almost like nihilistic tone. Like the movie's just a big downer overall, like in terms of mood. And but it did effectively end like a trilogy. Like Ripley's story does end in Alien 3. And then this movie comes along and this is a strange movie. It's directed by Jean-Pierre Jeunet, who's a French director. This is his only, I think, English speaking film. But he's pretty well known in France and outside of France, actually. He's done a lot of like other fairly big movies like City of Lost Children, Amelie. But anyway, you have a Joss Whedon script and then like some weird French dude coming in and directing it, and I don't think Jean-Pierre Jeunet is like really like in love with like the Alien franchise or anything. He kind of just seemed to be doing his own thing, which
that tone, having issues with the tone of the movie was one of my biggest criticisms, and that it seems like it didn't know what it wanted to be. Like, is it a horror movie? Is it like a romp of an adventure? It's like it was all over the place. And that's part of the part that I didn't really sit well with me.
Yeah, I would probably it's mostly a popcorn flick, I think. Like, but like I do understand that criticism. I'm mostly, I think, okay with all that just because of like how weird it can be. Like it's odd
It was
and
weird.
yeah,
I won't deny that.
but I do kind of like the weirdness.
And you know from past discussions, like I can also appreciate weirdness, but I don't want things to be weird for the sake of being weird. I want them to be weird because they're interesting ideas. And the ideas presented in this movie, I did not find particularly interesting. For example, and I'm blanking on the names because I said this in like the first podcast. I'm gonna repeat it now. Like I'm gonna forget everyone's name, like every character's name, every actor's name. I'm really bad with them. But the main character,
Ripley?
Yeah, Ripley.
Yeah.
So her coming back felt so contrived to me, like unbelievably contrived. Like it's not even the same character. Like her character is totally. In fact, I don't even know if like they had an idea of what her character was supposed to be, because sometimes she's like childlike, sometimes she's like really sassy, sometimes she's wise. Like she's all over the place, and it's never consistent. And also she's like a superwoman, like a superhero kind of thing going on with like super strength and all this other stuff, which to me got rid of a lot of the tension because it was like, oh yeah, well she's just gonna like punch his lights out because she can do that kind of stuff. And anyway, the idea that she's cloned, right?
Yes.
She's cloned.
Okay. So okay,
and it's
so
just 200 years in the future. Anyway, it was like okay, like it fell off.
Okay. So okay, you haven't seen Alien 3, but I can give a quick recap. In Alien 3, well, you remember at the end of Aliens, they destroy, I think, like the planet, or they don't destroy the planet, but they nuke
she
like
torches like the hive.
Yeah,
queen.
just basically where the aliens are from, like their breeding ground. She like wipes them out, and she thinks like, all right, I've killed this species. Now in Alien 3, you find out the queen laid an egg on their ship, and Ripley is actually impregnated with an alien, which
in the traditional way, right? Like the thing.
Yeah, there's a face hugger, but it happens like in her sleep, I think, while she's in a cryotube.
Okay.
So she doesn't know about it until later in the movie, and you find out that she's impregnated with, I think, a queen alien, and at the very end of the movie, she like sacrifices herself. She like throws herself into like lava, so she can like kill, the last like remaining alien and finally wipe out the species, but also, ending her life.
Okay.
In the process. And so in this movie, we have. Did they say it was like the U.S. military or something?
This is
thing.
The military.
Anyway, they clone Ripley because they want access to the Queen alien. Because.
So that explanation almost made it worse, because you gave something to me that just kind of made sense. Like, okay, she gets infected. We've seen lots of people get infected before.
Yeah.
And then she kills herself, and then okay, the end. And so now they are cloning her because I guess they need to in order to get to the alien that was in her stomach. I guess they're linked. Even with all that, it's still tenuous to me about why she's a half alien, half human superwoman. Like that having an egg inside you has happened lots of times in the Alien series. I have not seen a single person become a half alien, half human hybrid.
Right. Well, I will attempt to explain this.
Okay.
Because and I mean, this is like all like bullshit science. Like none of this like really makes sense, but the explanation works for me at least. I know it bothers some people. But you remember the scene where because she's Ripley 8. She is the 8th clone.
Right. And I know that they found the failed clones.
Yeah, and it's all like they were all like horrific, like failures, like because the alien and human DNA just like kept like mixing up in like super messed up ways. And I guess for her it finally worked, and it gave her, kind of some alien properties like super strength, so her blood's kind of acidic.
And the
And
queen also got some human properties.
yeah, we'll get to that. We'll
Yeah.
get to that. Okay.
Can I just say one more criticism I have of this really quick?
Oh yeah, no, go ahead.
It seemed like it decided to replace all scary moments, all tense moments that would have been in the older films, and they just replaced it with gross moments. Like, how do we
Yeah.
make this scene as gross as possible? And maybe some people get a kick out of that. I don't. Like, if something is gross, right, and it serves the plot in some way, like you're supposed to be revulsed, like, okay, try to use that sparingly. Don't make the whole movie just like a gross out thing. And again, like gross could work better if it was coupled with some emotions of like fear or tension. There's no tension. There's no fear. It's
Not
literally
really.
just gross. It's just literally like, look, the alien has a vagina. Gross. Like that's the whole thing. And then there's just scene after scene of that. And so like I almost like didn't even want to watch. I was just like, oh, this again. Like how much are we gonna do this? Anyway, that was one more. Continue where you were going with that.
I think I was the target audience because I like some of that gross stuff. Yeah, this movie is like a lot more like violent and graphic, it seems, than some of the other ones. But anyway, so Ripley, because of some like cloning, mixed matching DNA BS, like
Okay.
that explains her superpowers, kind of.
I guess I can sort of understand.
And I think it also kind of explains her odd behavior because
But the odd behavior, like again, there's just a problem of consistency. Just like how the tone was all over the place, her character was also all over the place. I did not get a sense of who her character was by the end. It seemed like it was just constantly changing to fit whatever the situation was, right? Like,
well, I think they were trying to go for like, is she gonna end up helping the humans or actually side with the aliens, kind of thing.
I get that's what they were going for, but to be honest, I never had a doubt. Like there was not a single moment where I was like, oh, she might help the aliens. Like no, like the entire movie, she was killing aliens left and right, and like that was not a worry of mine. And the only thing that did was weird was the fact of like, is she an idiot or not? Like there was like some basic concepts, like some words that she had struggled to say, or like some things that she just didn't understand quite often. Because they kind of, like, again, like childlike is how I would show her portrayal for like a good amount of this movie. But then
I'd just say that's just at the beginning though, like right after she's like,
that's when it's most pronounced. But even later, and then that is kind of weird to me that like, okay, she's an adult woman, right? But yet she like goes from like a 5-year-old to a adult woman in the span of, and maybe that's part of the alien DNA that she matures super fast and like learns really quickly. Like, okay, like,
well, to be fair,
right.
that is how the aliens do grow. Aliens grow super fast.
I mean, I guess
I'm gonna defend every bullshit point in this movie.
But okay, like even granting that, that she comes back and like sometimes you get glimpses of I don't know, she can be like kind of sassy and almost human, like she seems like very human, but then she'll like kind of walk it back and be like, no, I'm a weird, strange alien creature and like have to act accordingly. And it seemed like, again, like there just wasn't a lot of consistency in the character. And also, I didn't find her particularly likable, which, for a main character is like, I think it's kind of important to make your character someone that you like. I did not relate to this. And I mean, maybe that was the point. She's a weirdo alien creature. So like, maybe you're not supposed to relate with her, but that made it harder to care about what she did, at least for me.
Yeah. Well, I would argue you don't necessarily need to make a main character likable. You need to make them compelling in a way. Which
I agree with you. And but here's the thing though, like, okay, likable is a strong term.
Yeah, and I know like these are we're using kind of like vague terms here. Like what is likable to someone is like different to someone else.
Yeah, I think that though the most compelling main characters, even the ones that aren't likable, are at least you can understand them, like you can relate to them. Like as Breaking Bad as an example, I think Walter White. If I ever met Walter White in real life, I wouldn't like him. I don't think he's a very likable guy in the movie. Or in the show. I don't think they try to make him that. But every action that he does, you understand why he's doing it. You're like, okay, yeah, like I understand if I felt the way he did about this, then this is how I would act too. But with her, I don't get that. Like, I don't understand her at all. Like, not even a little bit. Like, whatever she does is a total surprise. And that's fine, I guess. But when you have that as like your lead, it just makes it for a less enjoyable movie watching experience. By contrast, I actually did like Winona Ryder in this movie quite a lot. I actually enjoyed her character much more than Riley's. So
Ripley.
Ripley. Oh God.
That's interesting because I really like Sigourney Weaver in this movie, who plays Ripley. I don't know. Find her performance, to me, it was compelling just because you kind of don't know what the hell is going on in her head. And I do like Winona Ryder usually. In this film, she just feels somewhat out of place. I don't know if I can put my finger on it. It's not like she's terrible in this movie or anything. So I just don't know. I would have cast Winona Ryder in this film.
I actually kind of felt that way at the beginning, that like she seemed kind of, it like was weird that she was with these like rough and tough group, and then she didn't seem to be that, and so it was like, this is very odd. But then when they explained that she's not like other people, to me that kind of the puzzle pieces fit, and It was like kind of like a satisfying like, oh, this makes so much sense. So why she's so weird. And then the crazy thing though is that, you know, she's weird in the context of the movie, but she's actually the most normal person by like our standards.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, I think that worked actually.
Yeah. What did you think of the rest of the crew of the I guess, what are they, like a pirate? They're not pirates.
They're mercenaries.
Yeah, mercenaries.
They're very little of the characters had any depth, right?
Yeah.
Like they were very like one note personalities, by and large, including the scientists. The scientists were also very like a very stereotypical kind of evil scientist type, where it's like all that matters is knowledge, no matter who is burned. Like it's, you know, it's like, okay, whatever. And then there was the one like tough guy. I did like how he had a crush on God damn it, Ripley. Fuck. Okay. I swear it's because it's the morning. It's the morning.
Yeah.
I'm gonna chop it up to that. But I did like that he had a crush on Ripley. Like that was kind of fun. Those moments. But for the most part, it was a boring character. Like he was mean.
Oh, Ron Perlman's character?
Yeah, like the main mean mercenary guy. He was kind of boring. There was like the leader one who was fine. He was just
who
like
dies like immediately.
Yeah,
in kind of a dumb way too. Like I will accept that his death, like the script was like, well, we need him to die, so let's just have him do something that doesn't make much sense.
The guy in the wheelchair probably had the most personality of everybody. He was actually one of the more compelling characters, but I blame him partially for the mix match in tone. Okay. Where it's like, is this a lighthearted movie or is this a like a horror movie? Because like he's always has like the one-liners, and everybody did a little bit to an extent, but
yeah, everyone does in this film.
Yeah, I think he was like the worst offender of that. And if you had wanted to go for just like a popcorn film, then it seems like they really tried to make the aliens scary. Like that was like an intentional thing. Like, we're going to make these aliens like really creepy. And then to me, that like creepy vibe that they, again, I think they ended up with more gross than creepy, as I already said. But like, yeah. I think that mismatched with the, the tone of the characters, especially the score. Honestly, that was like one of my least favorite bits of this whole thing. It was like a John Williams score, like very like Indiana Jones-ish, and with like on top of like these like alien like like gross alien deaths and stuff, and it was like like whimsical, and like it was so off to me like the whole time. It was just like, who chose the music for this? Like oh man.
I actually really don't remember much about the score. I think I don't know, it just didn't stick out to me either in a bad or good way. So, um, okay. So I guess it sounds like the biggest problem for you is just kind of like weird tone issues, or at least one of the biggest issues for you.
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't. I didn't have huge issues with like the framing or like any like the technical aspects of movies. Like in that respect, I think it was all fine. But yeah, the biggest issue was the tone and also the character writing. I found pretty either shallow or like just confusing, like just perplexing. Again, like the only person I came out like really liking was Ryder. And even her character wasn't like super deep any of her, like it wasn't like so amazing. It just, in comparison to everybody else, actually felt like, there was like, first of all, there was some depth there. And also that like I understood her motivations like the whole way through. I could relate to her as a character, which I couldn't do with pretty much anybody else.
All right. And yeah, I mean, I would agree. Most of the characters are pretty one-dimensional. But to me, they're still like fairly colorful, though. Like I do have fun watching them.
And again, like I wasn't bored of this movie. Like I wasn't like turn it off. Like I can't stand this. I was more just like, oh, like this is. I get why this one's not considered as good. Like why this one's not. I understand. So something I have to ask you, because I think, have you seen all the Alien movies?
Yes.
Because I've seen most of them. The only ones I haven't seen were Alien 3, and I haven't seen AVP 2. And I understand that those are considered some of the worst ones.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, like, to me, this is the worst Alien movie I've seen. And that's including all the prequels. That's including AVP 1. That's including Aliens. Right? Out of all of the Alien movies, I think this is the worst Alien movie I've ever seen. I'm curious about where it ranks for you.
So, the prequel movies like Prometheus and Alien Covenant, I
actually enjoyed those. I know that a lot of people have like problems with some of the plot points, and there is some like plot holes there. Yeah. But I felt those movies were more compelling and interesting than this one.
I've only seen each of those once, and I don't really remember them that well. I do remember liking them, but it's hard for me to actually judge them just because I really can't remember much.
And just for the record, I also have seen these movies once, all of these movies just once, years ago. Yeah. I just feel much more comfortable putting out opinions without...
Yeah. Well, I can easily put out opinions about like Alien or Aliens because like those... Alien's probably my favorite movie of all time, and I love Aliens, and I've seen those movies I've seen those movies a million times. And those two are the gold standard. They're masterpieces in their respective genres. I don't think many people will argue you on that. Now, Alien 3, out of the original quadrilogy, first 4 movies, Alien 3 is probably the one I've seen the least. And I do think it's my least favorite of the 4, okay. Which isn't to say that I dislike it. I actually like all of the 4 original movies. And I'd probably put Resurrection under Aliens for me, because I think I like Resurrection more than AVP, and definitely more than the second AVP. I've only seen that movie once too, but I do remember that movie just not being good. That might be the worst Aliens movie. So yeah, it actually might be my 3rd favorite Alien film.
Over all the prequels too. I guess you said you didn't remember them as well, so.
Yeah, I'd have to watch the prequels again, but I do think I enjoy this a little bit more than the prequels. Well, because this is the thing, I don't have much of an emotional investment in the Alien series anymore, just because I don't like. You're not gonna go back to the grandness that was the first 2 movies. Like I don't think that's ever gonna happen again. So at this point, I'm just like, well, it's a fun movie. Did I enjoy watching it? Okay. And I do enjoy Resurrection a lot, and I think a lot of that's just because a lot of the reasons why I like it would be like why a lot of people are put off. Like I do kind of like the director's style, which is I don't know, just weird and might not fit this series, but like I don't know, like just like zooming shots, like on people like screaming. I like that kind of thing. It stands out to me, like at least this actually feels like a director directed it instead of like a committee like pushing a button and like, standard movie coming out.
I mean, fair enough. I would have been surprised if this movie was like workshopped. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think they did. I think I did read though that studio did make some changes.
Probably. I think Joss Whedon had to go through a bunch of drafts just because the studio's like, well, we want this now. We want this now.
Yeah.
As for the final product, I don't think it differs too much from Whedon's original screenplay. I think they might have changed the ending. I do know.
Yeah, I think I read that they his original ending was supposed to be on Earth, but then they just cut that out.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah, and I know Whedon trashes this film. I think he has a quote where he says like they just did everything wrong. Like it felt wrong to him, like how they.
Well, he like defended the script. He said it's not the script's fault. It's everybody else.
And I'm like, I don't know, man. It's. I think I liked it more because of everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. Like it was an interesting, like I said, interesting choices all around.
So speaking of interesting choices, let's talk about the ending. Let's talk about the
alien vagina.
Okay, so as I said before, Ripley's DNA, gets mixed a little bit with the aliens. That's why she's got super strength. Her blood's a little acidic. And I guess the same thing kind of happened with the Queen alien that they surgically removed from her. Because this Queen alien has a womb.
Yeah.
And towards the end of the movie, you see the Queen alien in its lair. And she gives birth to I think it's referred to most people as the newborn alien. But it's basically this human alien hybrid thing. And this, I was reading some opinions of the film, and I think this is where it really goes off the rails for some people. It's just a little too much.
So, I mean, I'm gonna nitpick a little bit right here about how it went down. What was really strange to me is that this new alien creature literally is given birth to by this alien queen, and the first thing the guy does is it kills the
alien queen
that gave birth to it, and then thinks that Ripley is the mother.
Yeah.
And so, first of all, why? That's so strange to me that okay, maybe in a very weird way that the parasite taken out of her chest eventually gave birth to this thing. Therefore, that's just okay. It just seemed to be for the plot's sake, not necessarily anything that made sense. So that was issue number one.
And I can't actually think of a defense for that. That's just okay. I just have to accept that that's what happened, kind of thing.
And then Ripley, for her part, actually seems to have some sort of weird connection with it. But again, she's okay with killing it. It's very, again, it's really hard to pin down what's going on in her head ever. I never for a second thought that she was actually going to betray people it's just so clear to me that she had a deep hatred for the aliens, that no matter how half alien she might be, it was not going to go away. So I always knew she was going to kill it. But there was a weird moment where they were I don't know. It was just strange.
And I think I know exactly what you're talking about.
But the other thing I found weird was the how her and the alien mother met, because they fell into a pile of guts, and she kind of sunk in the guts, and then it turns out that there's people. The scientist guy is half alive, half covered in guts, and that also made no sense to me. Like, what is going on? And also, his actions, like the way he talked, he was like, "Yes, the mother," ha ha ha, and like,
Oh, I
dude, you're
love
like,
Brad Dourif
you're
in
in a
this.
cocoon thing, like clearly gonna die. Like, why are you getting enjoyment out of this? Like, what about this is like good to you? I don't understand.
Well,
Except for the
that guy
fact that
was
he's a
just like
weirdo
weird to
scientist.
begin with. Because there's that scene in
Yeah,
the beginning where he's like, looking at the alien like through the glass window, and he's like, I think he starts like kissing the glass, sucking on it. It's, but
I mean,
I like
he is a
I like
weirdo.
that actor, Brad Dourif. He's very fun, I think, and he's known for like playing like weird people. You know, like he's Grima Wormtongue in the Lord of the Rings movies. He's
Hmm.
he does the voice of Chucky, so he I think just kind of does eccentric roles like that. Um,
I mean, okay,
that makes
sure.
sense. Not that like I can necessarily explain it, but it is fun to watch.
He did provide some very necessary context about what was happening. Because like the whole time
Yeah.
I was just like, what the hell? Like, what is? And luckily he was there to explain it all. I would have never guessed, right? If he had not explained and said like, oh, it thinks you're his mother, I wouldn't have picked up on that. Like I would not be something I just realized. Like someone had to tell me, like, oh, that's why it's like licking her face. Like, okay.
Well,
um,
he's got a degree in science, so you know he kind of knows these things.
right, right. And then there was the it ends with like the death scene of the alien dying by being sucked out, like its guts are being slowly sucked out. And again, that was just another one of those things where it didn't feel tense, it's just more gross to me. Um, and like again, like it sort of felt like gross for gross's sake. Like you could have easily shown it die without the amount, but I mean, it might be appealing to some people, so
Yeah,
that's
I
for sure.
liked it.
Yeah. Like to me, I am like I said, I'm okay with grossness if it serves some purpose. Like if you're supposed to, like if the characters, like them feeling grossed out was part of the plot, then I'd be like, okay, like there's a reason for this, as opposed to this is what we want to see. And again, like maybe it just means it's not for me. That is not necessarily to say that's inherently bad, but it's not what I'm looking for in movies. I don't watch movies to be grossed out. Um, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, so this movie ends, they make it off the ship, they land on planet Earth. And I think this is actually one of the new scenes in the special edition. You actually see them like look over the ruins of like Paris, I think.
Oh yeah.
Just like see the state of the earth, and like it's almost completely like desolate.
Right.
And I think a fifth Alien movie, like a sequel to this one, might have like been in the works or like briefly planned out, but of course, that never panned out. This was the last Alien movie until I think AVP.
Yeah.
Which
And I think AVP 2 came out before the prequels, right? Like that sort of
yes,
part
yeah.
happened, and then the prequels were the next thing. Are the prequels done? I'm actually not even totally sure.
I don't know. I mean, well, I mean, like, I don't think like it's really like planned out or anything. Like, I don't think Ridley Scott's like, well, I have to make this many amount of prequels because like Prometheus happened, and then I didn't even know like that there was going to be a sequel to Prometheus, Alien Covenant.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, Brayden, would
Yes.
you recommend Alien Resurrection?
Nope. Nope. I can't think of a single context except for maybe if someone was like, I really want to watch all the Alien movies. It wouldn't even be a recommendation, be a warning. It'd be like, okay, like just letting you know this includes Alien Resurrection, which I did not care for, but go for it.
Yeah, see, well, I really like the film. I think I would have a hard time like finding the right person to recommend it to, because it's like this. It's like, well, have you seen the Alien movies? And they're like, if they say no, and I'm like, well, just watch the first two. Like, that's okay. And then on the other hand, it's like, have you seen the Alien movies? Oh, well, you've probably seen this one already then. Or did you just stop at number 3? I guess maybe you'll like this one.
I mean, sure. Like, I think, yeah, I think the thing that would be, if you're like deeply invested in the Alien lore or like need to know what happens, then I guess, you know, this lets you know. This lets you know it's a continuation of the story. So like if you just have a, you know, you're just dying to see more Alien movies, it kept on going. It kept on going after Alien, so you can do that. I don't, because I've never seen Alien 3. I can't compare the two.
Yeah. Well, they're very different movies. Like they are, yeah, almost on like the complete opposite spectrum of just like style and tone and what's going on.
Yeah, so I don't know. So I couldn't even say if you like Alien 3, then you'd like this. Like,
actually, what I could
maybe
say,
that's not
if
the
you
case.
disliked Alien 3, then you actually might like this one. That's what I could say.
I wonder if I would like Alien 3 then. I don't know.
It's definitely worth seeing, I think. It's just the initial negative reception Alien 3 got, I think, was... Well, it is kind of like a... I think there's a lot of studio interference. It's David Fincher's first film, and I know he's very unhappy with the final product. But just... A big problem was just, I think, the sharp contrast it was to Aliens, because people love Aliens, and you know, and we had like grown really attached to some of these characters, because there's, I think, a strong emotional core to Aliens, you know, with like Ripley and like the little girl Newt and kind of like the mother-daughter thing they develop. But in Alien 3, just at the beginning, like everyone except Ripley's like just killed off screen. Like she crash lands on a planet and everyone dies, and I think a lot of people like kind of felt like that was a slap in the face, you know, to these characters they had like grown to like cherish. And just Alien 3 is yeah, it's very just like dark and just dour and like it is not a feel good movie.
Okay.
Yeah. But like I've said, it's the movie I've seen the least. And I still remember liking it. But I don't know. I'd say if you were deeply invested in Aliens, like you'd seen the first two and wanted to see more, then you could watch Alien 3. But I think you seem to be doing fine.
This actually did make me kind of want to revisit the first two, because I think I haven't seen them since high school. Okay. So I'm sure I remember, you know, I think the big moments, but I think it'd be interesting to rewatch. I'd probably do that before I watch Alien 3. So
yeah. And I mean, well, those are fantastic movies. And a little side note. Ian Holm just passed away, and he was I'd say one of his most noticeable roles was in the first Alien movie as the robot Ash that, you know, turns out is from the company. But he's also probably more well known for playing Bilbo in the Lord of the Rings movies. But anyway, just thought I'd bring him up because he's somewhat connected with what we're talking about.
Yeah, no, I think it's fitting. I think I've said most of my thoughts on the movie. Do you have any kind of like final thoughts?
This is a strange film, and it certainly does not work for everyone. And I think that's kind of why I like it. I just like I don't know. You had this series, and then like they gave it to some like French guy who like put like his weird style all over it, and it's kind of a mess, but it's a mess that I like.
Well, despite me not caring for this film, still better than The Last Airbender. That remains the worst movie we've seen on this podcast so far. But
this is miles above.
Will it ever be topped? I don't know. But I guess that's it. Thank you for listening. If you are watching us on YouTube, please give us a like, subscribe. If you're listening to us on the Spotify, Google Podcasts, please follow us so that you'll get episodes. We try to do this weekly. And until next time, we're out.
Yeah. Have a nice day, everyone.